Check out this music. You get some really awesome tracks throughout the game. Each track has this mechanical feeling with the percussion, sounding like hammers hitting metal in the background. It definitely fits with the industrial setting of the game with places like Midgar. Listen to the battle theme. It's like no other in the series at this point, and stands out on its own. And the boss music is metal as hell, and it's almost like I'm playing Mystic Quest because of how awesome the guitar licks are. Other great music includes the music in the opening bombing scene, which sounds like something out of an old superhero movie. I love how disjointed the Oppressed sounds, with its reggae accompaniment with the flute playing the melody. It really gives the vibe of the slums during the Midgar segment, and it works decently well for Rocket Town as well. The chase is pretty action-packed and accompanies the part of the game where Cloud rides his motorbike to escape Midgar, and my god,
that's Snake.
Aerith's theme works so well for the character being represented, and when the music plays after a death, it makes the scene all the more impactful. The high wind takes the skies, which has a grand feeling like you're going on a massive odyssey. Not Mario Odyssey, as in Odyssey Adventure. Now let's address the Buster Sword in the room. One-winged angel. You see this man? Right here? He should be praised for all the hard work, because wow, it shows. And I thought Birth of a God was a great tune. The voices chanting Sephiroth like he's a god, the harsh use of strings reminiscent of the famous Jaws theme. It's destructive, it's brutal, it's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. This track works so well in all aspects, and Uematsu killed it. FF7 has such strong highs, but the music barely scrapes the top. The bosses are pretty good for the most part. The Guard Scorpion works as a pretty solid first boss, where you have to learn to use different magic to deal the most damage, and avoid it when its tail is up or you'll get hit by a devastating tail laser. The Sephiroth fights are easy if you're prepared, but trust me, you will die if you can't manage the attack that drains all but one of your HP in stage 1. Oh yeah, and the status effects? They'll screw you up. While I do enjoy a lot of the bosses in the game, some of them are either way too hard and very RNG heavy, like the Demon's Gate boss, which has the chance to literally one-shot you if you have bad luck, or bosses that are just easy, forgettable, and overall aren't a threat to do something special. Okay, now we're getting into the criticisms of Final Fantasy VII. As much as I want to call it a masterpiece, there's a few problems that keep the game from being perfect, even if some criticisms are countered by the positives, so ready your ultimate weapons, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna nitpick a lot. Your HP isn't maxed out, right? In Final Fantasy VII, you may notice the smaller cast length of the playable characters in the game in comparison to something like Final Fantasy VI, with the base cast being half the amount of FF6. Well, in FF7, There are 2 additional characters to unlock in your party. Bad news is, they feel unfinished. There were plans of them being involved with the main story, however, they were relegated to optional side quests.
Yuffie Kisaragi.
Yuffie's the more complete of the 2, and after talking to her in a random forest, the giant shuriken-wielding thief joins the party, assuming that you said the correct options. She does offer some interesting side quests that give you an extra hour or 2 of playtime. As interesting as the side quests may be, they can be really tedious to do, so in this playthrough, I skipped them since I didn't really want to go for a strongest limit break, or the Leviathan summon. Yuffie does have high luck status, so for getting critical hits in combination of her ultimate weapon, she can be pretty strong.
Vincent Valentine.
Vincent... This is gonna be controversial. Vincent is the worst character in the party, even though his design looks pretty dope. You can tell no doubt that Vincent has been added late in development, as instead of having 2 side quests like Yuffie, he's stuck to just 1. And it's such a boring and lame side quest as well. All you gotta do is go to a cave and after some dialogue, you fight 10 battles with him and then go back to get both his ultimate weapon and his strongest limit break.
Kinda anticlimactic, let's be honest.
At least you get some sweet lore, but most of that has to do with Sephiroth, but hey, there's some pretty good stuff. I actually did this one just to waste a half an hour after I beat the game. His limit breaks are pretty bad. They're cool at first where he can transform into different monsters, but then you realize that you can't control him for the rest of the battle. Vincent just has a mind on his own and might choose the weaker attack when in reality you really wanted him to do the stronger one. Now, I don't think Yuffie and Vincent are bad characters, but in the context of the game, they do feel rushed in. I get that Square may have been really passionate over these characters and didn't want to cut them out of the game in the chance that they could expand on these characters further in future projects, which ultimately became Dirge of Cerberus.
It looks like I still have some work to do.
Now, I really want to address this from the beginning. The visuals look very dated. Now, I don't mean it as in the graphics and environments look terrible. I think that for the time, it looks as good as it needs to be, and the pre-rendered backgrounds are very well detailed with lots of interesting and beautiful set pieces to look at. The character models, on the other hand, they're really blocky, which doesn't look bad on the PS1 version, since it looks like one of those old 2.5D PC games, which give the aesthetics a special charm about them that I really like. But the remastered version released on Steam and 8th generation consoles looks very dated. While not the worst looking character models on the PS1, they are seriously outclassed by games like FF9 or even FF8. Depending on the character portraits, they will maintain the same mood on their face with the occasional blink. Facial movements only take place in the FMVs. I'll get to them shortly. Here's an example. In this scene where Tifa is busting out of prison, there's a part where she gets slapped by Scarlet, one of the members of the Shinra. The text box indicates that Tifa is supposed to be angry, evident with the word but since her portrait looks like this, she just spanks and gets spanked from Scarlet until she wins, looking jolly as ever in the process. Without context, this is one of the most ridiculous parts of the entire game. Okay, maybe it isn't as ridiculous as Cloud dressing up a girl, but we don't talk about that. Wait, Scarlet doesn't have a mouth? A transition to my primary complaint on the visuals is how inconsistent they are. It is especially problematic on the remastered version, where I feel like I'm looking at textures that I really shouldn't be looking at. I will say the highlights of the visuals are in the battle mode models, which are really solid, with different animations based on what commands are used, and the FMV models are also great. There are certain times where FMVs look like this, and other times look like this. It's as if the game couldn't decide what to choose, so in conclusion, you have a game that looks visually confused on what its character style should be. The FMV cutscenes look pretty well done, even with its consistency issues. Key scenes such as the opening, the ending, the summoning of the weapons, and Meteor, and a few others I didn't mention, are for their time amazing and capture the emotion, soul, and personality that the game has, and it's where the characters are at their most expressive. But they also have problems of their own. I think a great example of this is the part where the party begins to leave Midgar. Now, pay attention to this sign, Antifa. Watch. Did you notice? Tifa never walked past the damn sign, so how did she get there? Really picking on Miss Lockhart this episode. Well, at least she's the girl that lives. And Yuffie too. Another problem with the FMVs I noticed was later in the game at the end of Disc 1, where Cloud looks like he's standing on shallow ground in the water. But then, the next shot shows that it's actually really deep. What? The lack of polish that these cutscenes have are really distracting, even if they are effective in what they deliver with them. Final Fantasy VII introduces a wide range of minigames. These are a solid way to break up the game, assuming that you just got done taking out a tough boss or something. But the minigames themselves, they're kinda hit or miss. Since there's a wide variety of them, I won't be discussing all of them, but highlights include the bike chase and the chocobo racing, while lowlights are the snowboard and the submarine. The bike chase minigame is pretty solid. You ride on a bicycle car and hit the guys on the other bicycle cars to stop them from attacking the non-bicycle car with all your friends inside. I feel like I was going for something, but I fell short. What's cool though is the amount of health remaining on your party members counts towards the boss you're fighting right after. So if your party involves Barrett and or Red 13 who sit in the back, they're in for a rough ride. Literally.
Unless you exploit the AI by spamming the attack on them, leaving them to avoid you at all costs.
Chocobo racing, not to be confused with that one, may be my favorite minigame of the bunch. Your chocobo controls fairly well, automatic or manual, and the stamina bar is a nice way to balance the race without it being too easy. Essentially, it forces you to be effective with your strategy, where you have to decide the best times to use up your stamina to run faster. Use too much and you move slower than the average summon. Or the snowboard minigame. This minigame is terrible, probably the worst of them all. Biggest problem here is the control. You go so fast that turning is incredibly stiff, making it annoying to take sharp turns, forcing you to brake every 5 seconds. Now, a game that encourages you to get a decent time is really difficult thanks to the poor design of the level and the control. For what is supposed to be one of the more fun minigames, has been relegated to being the most tedious of them all. On paper, this is a blast, but in execution, it's more of a bomb that can't explode. Last minigame I'll talk about is the submarine. What is this, the Wrath of Cortex? While it isn't bad in a way that got me in the brink of rage quitting, it certainly is a bad that feels uninspired. You ride a submarine and shoot other submarine with some really clunky controls, and probably the worst part of the game aesthetically. Not much to say here. I could also go on about the summon animations becoming repetitive, and a story, while great, can be really difficult to fully invest yourself in because of how complex it is. Blame the horrible translation on that regard. So you don't care what happens to the planet? You're wounded. Thanks, Cloud. Okay?
So you have to do as I say.
You're the lowest. Okay? And best of all, how about something to drink? Give me something hard. Oh my god. I have this horrible picture in my head. That sounds so wrong. If it isn't bad, then the dialogue can be really tedious, especially in parts of the game where the characters will just explain things to you, because the translation can make things more confusing than it actually is, because of the subpar use of word choice, just good enough to make it passable. But there are some decent quotes too, like this one I found from Barrett. "I know you got problems, hell, we all do, but you don't even understand yourself. But you gotta understand that there's no getting off of this train we're on, till we get to the end of the line." You also have other great quotables, such as, "Shut up, sit your ass down in that chair and drink your goddamn tea," which is slightly altered in the remastered version, and I think the original is better in that case, as it reflects Sid's character better. The remastered version is generally the better of the two versions when it comes to translation, but I think I found the exception. Now I'll just cut to the ending, because this is really good. As in, probably my favorite part of the game. After defeating Hojo and the Shinra, as well as seeing a bit of a romantic moment between Cloud and Tifa, you reach the last disc of the game, where the party heads down to the North Crater after the laser broke the shield protecting it. The Avalanche, I don't know if they're still being called that, but who knows, takes out Genova's last form in a fairly easy boss fight, and then we get to fight Sephiroth 3 times. The latter of which is impossible to lose, but the former Sephiroth's Bizarro and Safer forms are really good fights. The only issue is that one of Safer Sephiroth's attacks takes 7,777 years, see what I did there, to finish the animation for, which, depending on how fast you can take him down, uses multiple times in a fight, which can really make the fight drag on way more than it should. In Triumph, you beat him 3 times, and okay, I said these cutscenes don't age well, but the ending is so good I won't even spoil it for you, so check it out yourself. Such a great game. And I didn't even mention all the glitches and exploits you can do. One of these exploits is the infamous W item glitch, which comes from the W item materia that allows you to use 2 items in one turn. With a glitch, you can stock up on essential or finite items such as Mega Elixirs, Hero's Drinks, and so on. If you have the patience to grind, Barrett and Vincent's ultimate weapons can deal so much damage that it goes over the damage gap and can one-shot every boss in the game. Okay, Vincent, you win this time. Do I view these as a positive or a negative? How about neither? If you want to screw around with the game, more power to you. But it shows the game's lack of polish and unbalancing, where they didn't bother to fix even in the remastered version. So what do I think of Final Fantasy VII? It's good. Real good. Remember when I said whether this was either a true classic or a glorified step forward in the role-playing game genre? I think it's the former. With its heavily customizable materia system and its simple yet satisfying combat thanks to the additions of the limit breaks, the battles in Final Fantasy VII are for the most part awesome, and really does encourage you to use the new mechanics to your advantage. The characters are excellent even if half the cast becomes white noise unless they're in the spotlight. The story is great when you understand it, but it's hard to know what's going on thanks to the poor translation. The game can get really unbalanced at times with some abrupt difficulty spikes in the bosses or having broken strategies to make it nearly impossible to lose. Minigames, as good or bad as they get, are a welcome addition to break up the game and are very memorable. The graphics aren't the greatest thing in the world, especially in terms of consistency, but it makes up for having some really great environments and set pieces to make the game look better than how it does on a technical standpoint. I know this review sounded like me complaining a lot, but I have to tell you, what this game does right, it really does well, and what it doesn't do so well, it can mostly be drawn down to nitpicks. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, the music is just top notch. Although this is the second Final Fantasy I played, it is the first one I actually finished. The first one I actually played was 6, but it was just way too complicated for me to keep going. Playing the original or the remastered version is totally up to you, even with the small differences. Does Final Fantasy VII get the approval? Well, obviously it does, and I'll recommend this game to anyone as a good starting place. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention the enemies in this game. I think they're pretty well designed for the most part. Except for when you get surrounded by a bunch of frogs. Yeah, they're pretty annoying. Screw the frogs. Don't get nay-nayed by the frogs. Now how do I close this episode off with a bang? By making a rap song, of course. This one's for you, Eric. Let the battle begin, fight on, got materia in. That's the round, but give us an easy win. Hey, just took down the Ruby Weapon 1 by myself. What have you done? Level 99, what's the point of run when you have 100 mil kills, son? Guess what, Sephiroth? I killed your mama tough. Trash talker, what a bluff. Now we see who's in the rough. A black man, Barrett, he hot. Think you beat him, you cannot. Machine gun on his arm, what have you got? Wait, he just capped you with a big shot. Hitting and busting rump, watch me fall in the dump. Survive out of lump, Vincent's got the pump. He be busting caps on your dead bump, watch it triumph. Sid be taking the boost jump, watch it go high up. What's wrong, Johnny? Got no one to jump. Tifa's mine, she be riding my bust the sword jump. Now here comes the chorus. Sephiroth gonna be in stitches, Omni slash big and all the bitches. I'm Cloud, bow down to me, your hitches. Sephiroth gonna be in stitches, Omni slash big and all the bitches. I'm Cloud, bow down to me, your hitches.
The Final Fantasy VII rap by BigAnf. This, whatever you call it, it's not good.